go out there. They taught us, they trained us how to protest. We had to go from being valid, if you will, to learn this thing called non-valid protesters. I've heard a lot about Dr. King. Indeed, we had to listen to the things he had to say. One thing I remember Dr. King saying was, America seems to only understand this kind of action. This is the only thing she seems to understand, is this disobedience. And that leads to what we call protest. The last brother I was listening to, he hit it on the head. I've not yet figured out why people try to say you can protest this way, you can protest that way. Protest means there are no rules.
Right.
There simply are no rules. When we wanted rules, when we wanted everybody to abide by those rules, we found we were the only ones who were abiding by the rules. So when you tell me protest, and I think you saw it in D.C. last night, when the occupant of the White House told people they needed to go home, the next night 3 times as many showed up because those rules don't apply. We're not listening to them anymore. I think that it's time for the older people, and I'm one of them. We do need to help our young people to understand this cannot keep going on. Again, the last brother I listened to, he hit it on the head. I think the message that's being sent right now is we're not going to take this anymore. In America, how much do you think you can withstand? I'll tell you. Unlike 1968, Chief, I'm seeing people in London, Amsterdam. I'm seeing people around the world who are taken to the streets because of this kind of thing. Last thing, I know I'm giving you bits and pieces, but I'm just trying to give everybody an idea of what's been on our mind for too long.
Take your time.
When we talk of policing, in Prince George's County, yesterday, I believe it was, on video, we have a white officer who's kicking, stomping, and beating a person into bad health.
Yeah, I saw that.
It has not let up. So I want to say to Ambezi and her generation, be very, very careful and thoughtful, because Ambezi, just like your parents were telling you what to expect, how your grandfather or your grandmother told you the things your grandfather did, and we have to hit this nail on the head. These white folks are at home telling their children how nice it used to be, how great it was when they kept a people in place who did what they told them to do. They paid these people what they wanted to pay them. They worked them like dogs. Those white folks that are at home today saying, this is our opportunity to try and put these people in place. It may be our last opportunity to do it. I've been looking at the police who are supposed to be policing the protest. Chief, I'm seeing more violence right before the cameras, the national cameras, that we've probably seen all year long.
Yeah.
I watched a New York patrol officer knock a young girl down over the weekend, and if she'd have slid 10 more inches, she would have hit her head on the curb and she would have been dead.
All right, I saw that.
So we have to understand something. America knew what they set out to do. But the tide is changing, but that doesn't mean they wanted to change. America hired police officers to protect them. America did not look at us as being part of them. This is why you have this problem. We don't want to hire police officers that come from the communities that they live in. That's not what America wants. We have to get smarter than this. For the older ones, it's time for us to reach out to Ambezi's generation and figure out how can we support their effort. What can we do to help them? This is a more of an urgent time than I think I have ever seen before, and instead of it getting better, it seems to be getting worse day by day. These people are still out on the street, I will tell you. And Chief, you've seen crowds before.
Sure.
They expected these people to be gone after 3 days.
Exactly.
Nope.
They are still there, and the numbers are growing. It's like we've got the perfect storm. We've got the pandemic, and the people are showing they don't care about social distancing, because if we can't have freedom, then give us the pandemic, give us the disease and death. Do you understand the message they're sending?
Yeah.
They're telling this occupant on Pennsylvania Avenue, we're not taking this off of you anymore. We're just not going to do it. This is like everything that could go wrong. It seems to be going wrong right now. Let me just close with reiterating this. Let's figure out how we can help the upcoming generation in every way that they need to be helped. Better educating them. If the public schools won't educate them, we have to find a way to educate them. We have to find a way to prepare them for employment. We have to find a way to help them to understand they cannot help their people if they're locked up in a penitentiary. This is the work that now has to be done. Going back to listening, but after listening to my chief, I thought I had to call.
Sure.
You all know I usually text. But I think that this is such an urgent matter right now. So for me, I'm asking all of those who've come before Ambise's generation, you all need to step up and let's figure out what we can do and how we can help them get this job done once and for all. People are talking about the young man that died. Let's not let his life be in vain. That's it for me, Mike. I'm going back to listening.
Thank you, Phil. As always, we always appreciate your comments, and it's always very insightful. And I know, Ambisi, you had another question. And then, Doc, when we come back from the break, I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on what, between you and Shannon, about what Phil was just saying, because they put out a whole lot of good stuff there. So, Ambisi?
Well, I have my question is, I think Dr. Powers and our guest that we just had on the line touched on some very important points. And one of the points that they both kind of alluded to was we have to see some kind of permanent change. How are we supposed to stop protesting when the very thing that we're protesting about keeps happening during the protest? Like that, that just baffles me. It's almost like you guys are watching us, especially in Louisville. I just don't get it. It's like they just can't be thinking, because these people are out here for George Floyd, but also Breonna Taylor. One of the main things in the Breonna Taylor case was that nobody who broke in that house had on a body cam. Fast forward to yesterday or the day before that, another member of the community that was loved by the community, used to feed police officers barbecue, was killed. And again, you're caught with no body cams. How do you expect us to stop protesting and think something is going to change when you can't even change it during the protest? How?
I don't think they have anticipated the strength of this particular protest, because they've had so many protests historically. Even if you go back to the Trayvon Martin situation, right? Everybody flew down to Florida, put on hoodies, and then after it's all said and done, the same laws that were in place before Trayvon was killed was in place afterwards. So there's a philosophy by those who are watching this that say that this will peter out. I mentioned this, and I will always come back to this because I actually testified before Congress about this. When I was in the FBI, a document came across my desk because we were going out and interviewing people. This is when I was assigned to the Detroit office in the different communities. And one of the documents that came across my desk that was looking at a profile for how to interview people, black people, said that black people are emotional, but they're not scientific. And here's what the conclusion was: that we will get angry, we will protest, but when they say that we weren't scientific, what they mean is that we've taught the scientific method in school. You have a hypothesis, and it's not over till you come to a logical conclusion. Not a conclusion, but a logical conclusion. So the FBI had concluded by watching our historical protests is that we do get emotional, we get into it, we're upset. But if they let that just peter out, we won't bring it to a conclusion. We won't change policy. There won't be any permanent thing that they have to do. Just let us get it out. They can all about protests like Sunday morning church service.
They think it's just a tantrum.
Yeah, you go there for 2 hours, you pray, you sing, you hear the preacher, you get fired up, and then you go back to the club on Friday and do what the preacher just preached you to hell on Sunday. And they truly believe that that is our philosophy with everything. So that's just what I'm saying. I know I had no doubt that the protests would at least continue until the services next week, which is going to engage a whole different set of emotions. When people go to a funeral that is being planned that Floyd Mayweather paid $88,000 for, so I can't even tell you what that's going to be like. But the emotions that even if they died down a little bit, even if the coals cooled off a little bit, once people go to the funeral and whatever the speakers are, it's going to be fueled all over again. So I had no intention. But the people who watch these protests from the 1960s and the 50s all the way up to now, so this is what black people do. They get angry, they march, they protest. The basketball players wear T-shirts and they wear hoodies. But in the end, the same policies, the same culture, the same practices, the same people stay in position. So I think in the aftermath of this, and I'm pushing this on a regular basis, we've got to make sure even now, while some people are participating in the protests, people who have the expertise have to be looking at the policies, have to be asking for a copy of the policies, have to be asking for how permanent change can be made. We have to, and I think this was said too, we have to begin to develop our own police officers. I said that here today on the Fox News. I said, listen, I developed an entire plan for Mayor Kathy Pugh at the time of organic policing. You can't keep asking other people to police you, right, when you having children. You're birthing police officers. You just got to convince them it's a noble trade to go into. You don't have to convince them of it's a noble trade by saying, look at the police. You have to say, do you want to protect your mother, your father, your brother, your grandmother, and get paid for it, and do it under the color of law? That's how I recruit young people. Now, I'm telling you that here's a job where you can be an enforcer for good and protect your entire family, your entire neighborhood, and get paid, and have a career, and have a pension. Because you can't keep asking other people to police us right, because at some point, like I say, maybe we should be policing ourselves. We have babies. They go to school. They can learn everything a police officer learns. Maybe we should be saying that we need organic policing in our community, and then we don't have to ask people. Then when something go wrong, and your daddy was the chief who let it go wrong, you do not, hey daddy, I need to talk to you tonight. I don't want to set up no meeting.
That's right. That's right.
I need to talk to you tonight, but what happened? Because now your father is responsible for the community, so now you need to go to him. But we can't go that with the others put us on an appointment book. And we keep asking them to treat us right when everything in the history of this nation says that they had no intent of treating you right in the past. Now they're great pontificators. So why can't we become, your father became a police officer?
I agree. We're so busy saying, go ahead, Shannon.
No, go ahead. We need to change things. We need to change in our community, because if we don't stand up and do it, who's going to do it? I don't know how come we keep letting the police decide their own fate. Like if we get in trouble, I can't be on the jury of Ambezi and say, because I know her. So how come the police are able to do that? How are they able to say if this crime was justified or not? Things need to be changed. We need to change that first of all, and we need to start policing the police.
Well, that's a great point that's a great place for us to jump off, because that's a discussion that I knew was coming, and we wanted to talk about that a little bit. And we also have a few more comments in the chat that we want to get out here. So as always, we appreciate the comments. We appreciate you calling in, Phil. We have some comments on the line from Gina and some other things that we want to hear about. So everybody sit back and get ready, because when we come back, we're going to cover a lot more topics. So keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.
Straight No Chaser. Talk radio. We never dilute the issues. We serve the hard stuff.
Anyone else? name is David.